You. What's going on? It's your boy Ja. Same difference back again with another one. And I have two lovely ladies coming on tonight, the founders of the Act Out Ensemble. They're coming on and we're going to dive deep into what they do, what's the purpose of it, where they hope to take it, why are we even doing it, where did it come from? So you may not have heard about it, but I think you should because it's important. Culturally, it's important. Theater and the arts altogether, I think we're losing the arts. And we tend to invest more into the sciences, which isn't bad, but sports. Sports gets a lot of the money that I think should be going to the arts because they're forms of expression and everything shouldn't be about books and books and books. Everything shouldn't be geared towards sports and entertainment and that type of stuff, but those are the ones that make the most amount of money. We're going to talk about the arts, the Act Out Ensemble, what their performances mean. Um, we had a little conversation backstage, and I'm excited to bring that conversation forward to you guys. But you know what we got to do first? Hit you with the beautiful bean footage. We'll be right back. All right, all right, all right. Thank you, ladies. We got Miss Saida Carter and Lindsay Simmons on here. You may know her online as she Dread Simmons, right? Because that's the only way I knew her. So I was wondering what that name is. Found out today. Can you both go ahead and introduce yourselves individually for me, please?
My name is Lindsay Simmons. I live on St. Croix. I've lived here since 1987, um, continuously. So I have not left the island and come back. I participate in a drama club called Act Out Ensemble with Miss Saida Carter. Um, we cover social justice topics. We use improv and forum theater to present them. And in the community, me and my husband own a landscaping business and a farm.
And I am Saida Carter. This is my 30th year being a public school educator. I've taught every grade of English from 6th through 12th in California, New York, and here, what I call my home, St. Croix. I came here as a 2-year-old in 1973, and I have been here ever since. Off and on. I did leave and teach in New York City public schools and Oakland public schools. I've also gotten some opportunities to teach abroad. I got a chance to teach in South Africa. Love to see it. One of my students bigging me up. And, the work is much, but if we all get into it, the work could be lighter. I, in 2020, started an online theater company called Act Out Ensemble. I harassed Lindsay and her husband, Randall, and about 15 other people to join online twice a month. And then we put on a couple of online productions. And since then, we've been in the community at a couple of the ag fairs. We also did a series of 9 Free Up Friday nights at Positive Nelson Serenity's Nest. We're about to reassemble in May. We've been on a little mental health sabbatical. It is Mental Health Month. And, just how can we use theater to discuss the myriad of important issues that our community needs to shoulder up and face.
Thank you very much for that. I actually have a clip for those who are watching and don't really understand. So this could kind of ease them in before we get into the interview for real. So if you'd allow me a little bit over a minute of your time, I'd like to play this clip. I think it'll break it down pretty nicely. All right, here we go.
No need to think because they did the thinking for us. There was no need to cry because crying only led to more pain, and no need to live because we have lived only to serve them. But those needs are no longer because the time is now. We have waited long enough, we have fought long enough, and we have suffered long enough. Words cannot bring them to understand. So we're going to use force to make them understand and to make them realize that we are just as dangerous as them. If they ain't going to understand true reasoning, we're going to make them understand true fear. And fear is something that we all understand too well because we live in it every single day of our lives. But that fear we live in only make us stronger. Our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, and our children have died to these people's hands.
Oof, that's powerful. That's
Yes,
powerful.
yes. So that project was really, really interesting. It was a bunch of complex students. So in addition to Act Out Ensemble, also I work at Caribbean Community Theater. I'm the drama teacher at Complex. So under the Act Out umbrella, I'll sometimes accept work where I'll then prioritize the use of student actors, get them invested in writing a piece, rehearsing it, and then performing it. So that was a piece that we did where we imagined various characters who would have been alive during emancipation and what their thoughts and feelings would be. And we tried to speak as them. We tried to use a little history where possible and imagine these monologues where students could then, try to take on this ancient character and see what conversations come from it. So yeah, that's some of the work that I've been able to do with students. And there's so much more. We got so many tricks in the bag.
Thank you. I that really did a number on me. It drew me in because I was just going through the page looking for stuff, and then when I clicked on this one, I was like, "This the one. This the clip. This is what
Yeah.
I'll use." Can
And that
you either?
student is now, he's now in college. So that happened
Congrats.
last year when he was in his senior year. He's up on the mainland in college doing magnificent.
Awesome.
But I think what happens to them is they realize, wait, I can create, I can perform, I have a voice. Those are the messages that I try to send to student actors and some adults. Some adults don't think that they have a voice or that their voice needs to be heard.
I could see that. Could either one of you kind of tell us in your own words, or both of you one at a time, what is Act Out Ensemble to you? What is it for you?
For me, okay. Um, when Act Out began, we were in the middle, well, had just entered into COVID actually. So some of our first series of skits were just online. We were meeting online, I think weekly or every other week. And there was a group of us, and they turned into mental health sessions for a little bit. And we kind of held each other together through COVID while discussing these topics. And it's been folding into, I would say, greater and greater conversations each time. So we worked on some skits for a little bit. We performed our improvs. And then for a little minute, we actually did story circles where we use like preset cards and questions in a group setting where everybody can contribute to the conversation in a healthy and safe way. So what Act Out Ensemble is to me currently would be helping our community have hard conversations and helping our community go through the process of talking about things so we could go forward. not just to have drama, not just to talk about it, not just to say things, but so you could actively use it and go forward with it. And I think one of our biggest issues that we face with the community is the exact thing Saida said, that a lot of people don't realize not only that they do have a voice, but they have the right to use that voice and that that voice matters. So it's kind of become that with the adults and the students similarly, that you matter, you participate in community. Is there a healthy and safe way and safe space to do that?
Thank you.
And for me, like as a theater person all my life, I've been in countless plays, a couple of locally made films. I used to belong to a sketch comedy company when I was in New York. I love theater, but then I also love revolution. So my thing was, how can I merge my two most significant interests, right? And then the third thing that I love is I love Black people, right? I love us in all our manifestations, right? I love us when we're up. I love us when we're down. I love us when we're ratchet. I love us when we're like righteous. I love Black people throughout the diaspora. I got a chance to live in Africa as a very young girl. I was raised in the Caribbean. I was born in the United States. So I just love us in our entirety. And I wanted to be a part of an organization or a collective or an ensemble, Act Out Ensemble, that was dedicated to using theater. Because if you see a play or a skit or a short scene, and it's about something that we need to talk about, and then it's in the processing, now we stop. You've seen this scene. What did you see? How do you think this character feels? How do you think that character feels? Getting people to talk about something that is made up, but not truly made up because it's based on real scenarios or real things going on, is a very provocative way for them to begin thinking about how to make change. So this is so important to me. I'm at my 30th year as a teacher, and whereas the money ain't right, I'm moving into this as my next, agent provocateur thing. And I'm so happy for the people that have been working with me to help fine tune it and push the agenda around it. Because the thing is, I'm not for the status quo. I'm just not for the way things are. If anybody is suffering among us, I'm a part of wanting to end that suffering for them. I might not have the finances to end it, but I can do the advocacy. I can do the action. I can make noise. I don't mind making noise. I enjoy making noise. So that's kind of what it means to me and why I want to keep building it out and start accepting new members, getting new people who are interested. My particular age group that I'm really pushing for, we might end up having more of a youth group, and then the elders, such as myself and Lindsay. But what is happening in St. Croix for 16 to 24-year-olds, right? If we're not checking what's happening for our 16 to 24-year-olds, we're going to continually have a lot of struggles.
What are we talking about, Marcus? We're here with the minds behind the Act Out Ensemble, and we're talking about why, how, where they came up with the idea of using theater to bring a spotlight and awareness to the issues in the Virgin Islands.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
I know something about provocation, about, about using things to bring about conversation, because I do believe that it all starts with a conversation. And I think home, especially, there's a limit to what people are willing to talk about openly. And I would love to break those chains, because if you can't talk about it, you can't talk about the solutions. And it seems like too often we talk about the problems with no action. It just ends there. I'm sure you guys have covered like several topics, and but which one is near and dear to your heart? Which performance was like, I love this, I gotta do more. Which one was it?
I mean, I would think, well, because Lindsay is a farmer, I mean, hopefully she can spend some time talking about some of the work that we've been able to talk about around food sovereignty, right? Because dread or ja, if we can't eat, the whole thing shut down. Okay, shallow, like we
It's
can't
true.
eat,
It's true.
Yeah.
right? So
I
I
think some of
think,
the funnest have been at Ag Fair, honestly. And it's because we get this weird spectrum of people that show up under the tent. Some that know we're going to be there, and some that are just like walking by and like, what's going on? And you get all age groups, you get everybody kind of randomly participating. And they're all around food sovereignty, because Saida's right. I can't do anything without food and shelter. I need food and
Correct.
I need shelter. We're having a housing crisis, and we ship in 97+% of our food.
Mhm.
so one of the scenes we did at an ag fair event was we had three characters. One character was fresh food, one was frozen food, and one
The
was
dating
canned
game.
food. And it was a dating game.
Yep, the dating
Fresh
game.
food was an option for the suitor, canned food, or frozen food. So they had appropriate costumes. Um, and the person, if you've ever watched one of those old time dating shows, was able to ask them questions, you know, um, what do you like to do, for a good time? Canned food. Well, I've been sitting on this shelf for 10 years. Like it was basically joking, using those as possible dates for this person. And then obviously, all signs pointed to fresh food, right? Like, how can we now encourage people to start these backyard gardens like Plant Up St. Croix is advocating for, like the Good Food Coalition. So we pay attention to our other organizations, and we endeavor to serve their needs as well, because
Yes.
we're not a single issue group. So we're willing to talk about mental health. We're willing to talk about domestic violence. We're willing to talk about food sovereignty. So our ideal scenario is we now partner with organizations that are doing that work. Right before Act Out started, and one of the reasons it did started is I wrote a 26 episode radio drama for the Women's Coalition about childhood sexual abuse, right? And writing that 26 episode, one episode played a week for 26 weeks, it was heart wrenching to just sit there and write that with my writing partner, because it's happening. It's real. We were fictionalizing stuff that is actually real. And it was
Yep.
painful. But
And we
like you
did
said, you don't talk about it, you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, you can.
exactly. And we did a scene involving a sexual assault victim and the use of Juan Louis. And that was rough. And we did that one online. So we delivered that scene online. And there's a part of Act Out that I guess we haven't discussed yet, that we present a scene. We engage with the audience, we talk to you, we ask questions. And then we ask you, what would you like to see change in the scene? So, like you were talking about solutions, we now have the ability to play with this scene and create solution scenarios. And the one with Juan Louis was interesting because everybody would use Juan Louis. Everybody has to go in that hospital. So whether you're the victim, whether you're the patient that's using the hospital for another reason, or whether you're the staff there, all of this scenario would affect you. So it literally would affect everybody in the community.
I love that you added the solutions based part of it too, because it's important for people to see. Because sometimes telling people, or most times, just telling them, it doesn't do anything. But if they can see, maybe this can work. So I love what you ladies are doing. It's impressive, because you need to show and prove in our community first and foremost. And even when you show and prove, they still gonna complain. Saying cry. Saying cry. But with that being said, so as far as the topics that you've touched on, which like how do you deal with backlash? Because that's inevitable in our community. So even with the sexual assault thing, we're in an era where people don't even want you to say sexual assault. It's SA. So how do you deal with that on a radio show with what comes back to you?
Listen, we know what these things are. Stop playing. Like, you can't. I mean, if especially when it's adults, harming children, you can't play with that. And it's sort of like, I mean, in order to do that writing that I did for the Women's Coalition, I was meeting with crisis counselors, and obviously they're not telling me any names, but they're telling me some horrific stories that just make me hold my head dread. Like, this is going on in this small community, right? Protecting predators, protecting people who have hurt children because of their position or their class, or because they're from some elite family, or because they are a pastor of a church, or like, Dread, you gonna go to hell, my guy. Like, I'm not going with you. So I feel like speaking against it, being very clear, not rude, not disrespectful, but very clear and very forceful in the demands of our government and our agencies. Hey, we got to check these things. We have to make a difference in these things. Who's responsible? And the beautiful thing about presenting a scene and then having the audience talk about it, you can literally ask the audience, okay, so now what character should be doing what and why? What would you like this character to say? We even invite them to come into the scene. Would you like to come in and offer a solution, right? Would you like to come in and present a scenario in which this can be solved? We're not idiots, right? We're not stupid people. I think we plain stupid a lot of the times to protect our jobs, our reputation. People who see the emperor has no clothes, they're just like, hey, what a nice tie, great shirt. They're my naked Dread. Like, are you really gonna allow for that? The emperor has no clothes. Tell him, my guy, get a robe, get a
But we
dashiki,
like
get.
we like drama, but we like watching drama. We don't like actually being
Mm.
responsible for the drama that we're creating,
Mess,
right?
Melly, and Rugudu. Mm.
Right. And so a part of the issue with us in the Virgin Islands, and maybe this is a bigger thing or not, whatever, but we're speaking about the VI, is that our trauma is what directly blocks us from having the conversations we need to have. So it keeps with this cyclic motion, every generation of not addressing, not addressing, not addressing, and we're comfortable in it. We're now comfortable understanding what's happening to us, what's going to be tomorrow, and how we're going to deal with it, because we've been doing it this long. So we're not addressing it. And those people that stir the pot and try to address it, we're so traumatized, we lash out instead of like Saida said, addressing it in a respectful, calm manner, because I could go after somebody outside of the VI differently than the people I live with. I have to still run into them at Plaza. I have to still function with them. They're staying here. I could punish left and right. Your child could do the worst thing in the world. Kicking them out of the house did what? Just send the worst thing in the world out of your house. That didn't fix the problem. It just fixed your house. And so we have this misunderstanding where in the VI, it's like, well, not, that house ain't my problem. Like, that child ain't my problem. Your child could bring home that child one day. That's how
Listen,
families are created.
quick story. So today, I had an assignment due in my drama class. Students had to pick a monologue. They got 10 days to study it. It's less than a page long. I made them pick wisely based on their personality, their interests. Would you prefer a comedic monologue, a dramatic monologue, whatever? So since Monday now, I'm trying to get them done. So two girls decided to skip today because they know the monologue is due. They're supposed to have a costume and they're supposed to be presenting their monologue. So Ja, what do you think they do? They didn't just skip and go cool out. They skip and go burn some can in the people them school. So then knock on the door, the guidance counselor with the mother and one of the girls. This particular girl, last semester, problem child. This semester, I've been wearing away on her. You are intelligent. You are capable. You are beautiful. You got it going on. You can do this. She's now on the honor roll for the first time in her high school experience. So the mother came to my room. She said, Miss Carter, she's been telling me, Mommy, what are you going to do for me? I'm on a roll. What are you going to do for me? Whatever. She's so excited. It's such a beautiful thing. But instead of coming and facing me and saying, I'm not prepared. How can I redeem myself? She decided to cut class, and now she has a 10-day suspension when there's like 25 days left of school in reality. So I said, my girl, it's two roads in life. You want to go with a gremlin them and do stupidness, or you want to live a upful life so that you can create a vision for yourself and your future where you're not living in public housing anymore. If you're coming from generations of public housing, where you're not, having high school as a terminal degree, right? You're doing a trade or you're going off to college. Like, my son, the work is too much.
I
But
love your realness.
they need the reasonment. They need the reasonment. They need the reasonment. It's like, stop being a follower. It's either you gang with a gremlin community or you gang with a change agents. You can't jump back and forth. You can't.
At that age, is it not reasonable that they would be more followers than leaders when
Well,
you try to
that's
find
how the
yourself?
school system was built. I mean, we're not
Mm,
educating for leadership.
mm,
We're not educating for people who question the system. Because
that's
if you
facts.
question the system is going to be dismantled. We have too much systems thinking. We have too much handout thinking. I mean, hey, let me tell you, I don't be tired. But
I
I
mean,
still want to do
at
something
that
more.
age, and it's hard because at that age, yes, I get the following part too. At that age, you're questioning everything. And then Said is right. You're literally being programmed to follow. That's
Hmm.
what education is. Um, but then at that age, too, you're supposed to make all these mistakes and errors and have your community around you kind of you know, shape you back up and be like, well, this is the consequence. So Saida's right. Your choices is what your life is going to be. You could choose Gremlin Road or you could choose accountability and I want to grow. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but because the system we live in, Saida's right. 25 days left. Now you got 10 days suspension. Like, what'd you just throw out the window this year for that? And it is it's a great time in life to learn it. And should it be the end of this person's world? No. Should we have a better way to walk you through your suspension of 10 days?
I don't even believe in suspension, right? If I were
Right.
running the school system, you want to be home. Why would I send you home?
Exactly. What punishment is that except
You
tell you
come
you
into
don't
school
matter?
till 6 o'clock? No.
But now they get an in school suspension. Do they do that home?
No, this right now we're still getting a lot of people to go home. I'm a believer of in-school suspension, very
Yeah.
much so,
Really?
because they want to be home. And some children's home, honey, their homes are not conducive to doing the right
True.
thing,
True.
Yeah.
right?
Facts.
But if you're getting a child at 5, right, and you're putting him in a system from 5 to 18, you should be able to produce more than what we're producing, right? If the system is really stacked in a community centered, excitement around who you are, right? This girl, I mean, she's a very beautiful girl, dark skinned, and I heard a kid calling her Black Attack in 2024. I said, "Will you just call she?" No, that's her nickname, Miss Carter. Ain't no vibes. Black Attack.
Damn, they still doing that? Damn.
I said, I had to go on a whole rant about that. So some days I was like, okay, we got a lot to do. This is a no ranting day. But sometimes they just need that reasonment because they might not be being spoken to about that.
Right.
We got some questions and I want to touch on them. I don't want to make people feel like I'm skipping them over. So Marcus Norman asks, what is the significance of getting the audience to participate in the show? Does it create a lasting and stronger impact?
Well, because it's not just Marcus theater for entertainment purposes. I don't know if it was KRS-One or somebody who talked about edutainment, right? The theater, like I do regular straight plays that are just written by a playwright. I can direct them, get them out there. As a matter of fact, I have one coming up the last weekend of April, right? So I do that too. But my work and what I see my purpose and what drives me is to use that theater solely as a conversation for changing our world.
Well, and imagine if, say, this situation, you recognize and can see yourself in one position, in one person's eyes in the situation. But now when you participate as the other person. So now you're looking at your situation and how would you want that to play out for you? And
Perspective.
right, your perspective changes, but it also shows you what you think about that other person's position. So it's very eye-opening for you to understand. Like if you have to play a role, if I make you play a state setter that wants to hit on a local black guy because he's black, like it would show you what that image of a state setter who wants to hit on a black person locally just because of their skin color. So you would start seeing, this is what I signify and see that state setters do, and they come here just for this purpose, right? And it makes you think about your thought process a lot more and the judgments and perspectives that you hold of others. Because at the end of the day, we're all oppressors. Everything that we're doing and all the work that we're trying to do on some small level, we oppress each other. We are a culture across the world, just about. All these cultures are born out of oppressive systems for hundreds of years now. we've lived under a colonial style system, birthed out of enslavement without connection to our motherland. And we still live under that same colonial system now. So to remove ourselves from being oppressors creates more oppression because we don't even see it in ourselves and we do it every single day. All
Oof.
of us do.
Oof. My heart. Oof.
For instance, take
Oof.
this scenario. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
you're at just your average black man in America. You're
Mm-hmm.
at the job. The boss man is giving you hell. Ja, you didn't do this. Ja, you didn't do that. Ja, you came in late. Ja, you're going to use your. So now you're being oppressed. You're being pressed down. And you're like, God, I'm trying. I'm trying to keep this livelihood. I got a family at home to feed. So now you're suffering that at the workplace. Now you come home. Now you turn into the oppressor. You ain't cook no food. What's going on? This house look crazy, right? And then now your wife, she's stressed out because how you've been treating her in an
Yep.
untoward,
True, true.
unkind, non-communicative manner, right? And
Uh-huh.
then boom, she's at the kid's throat. I tell her to clean this freaking room.
That
How
is
come
it.
I ain't do our homework? So the pendulum swings back and forth,
Mm.
Yes.
from oppressor to oppressed,
Yes.
and we're
Damn.
always swinging back and forth on that pendulum. And we
Damn.
have to investigate ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a hard way to look at things. I would quit that job. I'm a serial quitter. But I feel it. I feel it. Now we got another question. Lindsay, I think it was you were referring to, if I got it correct, you were referring to people who, we have a way of babying offenders in the household, I've noticed. So CJ has a question. And I know I in the comments know I talking about, not my baby, but then another person is in Kings Hill. And
Right.
and the person that did it lives with you. Did a bring home backpacks and stuff to the house, and you don't say nothing. But I digress. CJ said, so what's the best punishment for these offenders though? Healing is lifelong. These offenders don't usually regret what they did, only getting hurt or getting locked up.
I think a lot of times people do the hurt so that they stop hurting others. But I've seen both responses out of that. You know, sometimes it doesn't change them, but what now did it do to you to go and hurt somebody? So now you joined in that bandwagon of hurting people too. I don't have a specific answer for what's the best punishment because if there's people hurting people in our community, then our community as a whole needs to come up with the best punishment. Um, I do know that I do believe in some type of removing you from society system, so prison, whatever. But if it's in the household and no one's reporting it, then what? Then it's left on the hands of Saida when they go to school, or me and running into me in Plaza or the gas station, right? Like we just pass this thing on. When we don't actively address the situation, we just pass that situation on to somebody else, right? So instead of looking at punishments, I want to look further and dig deeper. And I want to ask my community, why aren't we addressing it so that our people actually feel afraid to behave like that? Because when they run into Miss Carter, she gonna tell them something. When they find me in the gas station, I gonna tell them something, right? And so
Yeah.
we have to build a better web network of that old thing where like I see you, I see you. That's how I grew up
Mm-hmm.
here. With everybody in the community doing this to me when I walk by. Because it's I see you. Stop pretending like you didn't see it. Address it.
And
And you
not
don't
just to
need
be
to be
nosy.
mean.
Not
Right.
just to be nosy or coop.
I tell everybody that like to send me them videos about high school students fighting. Why are you passing this on? You're an adult. These are children. What is wrong with you? Understand the ramifications of what you just did. You know? So, yes, stop just doing it to be in people's business, to like drama. Check yourself. But also don't approach them messed up. Realize that most people hurt people because they're hurting. And I'm not saying you need to take hurt from them. I'm not saying put yourself in a position where they are hurting you. But I am saying that try a reasonable approach because that person probably is suffering from something. It's a symptom of something, especially if it's a child.
Mm.
I mean, the thing is, we made those children. We made
Right.
them,
Correct.
right? And we made them out, and they're born out of our unhealed trauma, right? So if you've never invested things like, oh, don't get no therapy, talk to God. No, that's not gonna work, mama. You know,
Okay.
that's not gonna work, right? Like, don't
Right.
tell nobody my business. I bond you with that iron, keep it to yourself. No, don't do that. It's not gonna
Right.
work. We have so many people have layers and layers of their own unhealed trauma that they pass on. Sometimes I hear my mother's voice coming out of my mouth to my daughters.
Yep.
And I think, oh shit, I didn't like it when it was me in the middle. So I'm going to have to turn this around. It's really
Right.
about the stillness, right? All of our meetings often start with a little meditation, a little quieting, a little diaphragmatic breathing. Um, I do meditation every Monday with all my classes, and I also do it at lunchtime for whoever wanders in. It's like, how do you begin to investigate yourself? Because you can't change a matter soul.
That's right.
You better try to change yourself. But I have daughters, and daughters, obviously can be criminals as well. But the mother who knows how youth man shoot a next woman youth man and can't say nothing about it. Hey, woman, you's a part of the problem.
Yeah.
That's why they be loving their moms, though. We don't talk about that. They be loving their moms because of the enabling.
Yeah.
And it is an issue. Like I would say in our culture, the mother son connect can be toxic and
Hmm.
very
Why so
controlling.
happy when I see them girls come through me, because the sons, that's a hard work thing, my son.
Yep.
Especially if the father done dig out and gone his way.
Yep.
I
And I
think
have both.
it's
I have
hard.
both boys and a girl.
So,
And they are very different.
of
Males and
course,
females, they develop completely different.
for sure.
Yeah, this isn't a smarter than, this isn't a nothing like that. They just develop different. Development is not a linear path. And they're just very different. And I don't, so there's the problem of mothers sheltering these young men when they're doing wrong. And then there's the problem of, like Saida said, what are we doing from 16 to 24 years old with our young men? Like, what is there for them to do? Because
What are the
mentally,
options?
right, you're still very much a growing person. I don't want to say child, but a growing person mentally at 24. That's not fair to just be like, you're a grown
Correct.
man, get together.
Correct. Even and that 18 thing, that is a scam. That is a trick of the devil. At
Well,
18,
that's to
I was
approve
a fool.
military.
Here
I
no
That's
was
to
a
big
approve
man.
fool.
military.
But then I could join and risk my life and fight and die for the country, but I still can't drink yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's American
Whatever.
capitalism. They
Yeah.
want the black body to go serve this country and be a disposable,
Mm.
body. I worked at a high school in New York City. A military recruiter would not dare set foot in that high school. The principal would bark at them, run them out the building. Here, take them, take them, take them.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're not educating them to really become the careers that we need. We're
Yeah,
importing so many
yeah.
careers now to the
Yep.
I ain't gonna
VI.
lie. I
We
ain't gonna
don't
lie.
have,
The military saved me. The military saved me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Right
but
from the VI,
that's
and
you.
I ran. I ran away from it because I was getting into much stuff, and like there wasn't a clear path forward if I stayed. So I'll just say
And
that
that happens. And that happens. But there could have been something very similarly structured
there
that
should
was
have been.
about your African
Yes,
self,
there should
right?
have
Correct.
been. Correct.
There
That
should
was
have
more
been
suited to
something.
you and your needs and not just an escape plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
I want to touch on this question, and then I want to go into what we were talking about backstage because I think it needs to be discussed. All right. So we're just gonna make this concise. Crystal is nothing against you. But Crystal Thompson asks, what if this is an 18-year-old who was abused throughout their childhood and as adolescence, they don't know no better? And she's referring to a child who ends up doing hurt to or harm to others after being hurt, which that hurt people thing, I've learned that that can be a form of gaslighting. So we need to tread lightly with that because like sometimes that's used against people that have been harmed. It's used
Right.
to say like, hey, you should still talk to this person, you should still deal with this person because of what they've been through, when in all honesty that person is inflicting harm and most of the time they know
Yep.
what pain looks like. But
Right. And
I'm
you never
back up.
position yourself to take damage. Like Saida said, we've been on a hiatus for mental health. Like we needed a break. this we needed a break. It's not there's no other specification needed. And Saida had a post a while ago and it said, when a flower doesn't bloom, what do you do? And it's changed the environment. Our environment is full of unbloomed flowers. So now what? What if no flowers around you know what kind of environment is needed to bloom? So now how do you fix that? And it's one step at a time. That's literally what it is. It's one step at a time. So that 18-year-old who is abused throughout their childhood and they don't know better, maybe start with teaching them better. Maybe start with treating them better. Maybe start with giving them a better environment and see then how they respond to that. And I can't say that that person would necessarily, or every person would change if that's your response, if that's what you try to do. Some people won't change and some people do change and some people will pick change. But if there's not that option there, how are they going to pick it? How? So you're not lost at 18. You could do huge damage by 18 and you could derail your life in directions or whatever, but you're still not a lost entity. And change their environment. That's the best that I can give. And it's not always about money. It's not always about money. If you're a parent and you're coming home and you're not spending time with those children, you're going straight on your device, you're going straight into your work mode, you're going straight into your clean mode, whatever it is. Pause a second, have a meditation time with your children after school. Meditation is not something that requires a ton of time. If you can stay quiet for 5 minutes, you're doing really good in meditation. And then if you
Also,
could sit in the same room together with each other for 5 minutes, quiet, you'd be amazed at what kind of changes can happen because you guys are just thinking. So that would be my biggest advice is change that person's environment and hope that they pick a better outcome.
I think also too, really quickly, that we need to realize that we are not the worst thing that we've ever done, right? Um, there's a gentleman named Brian Stevenson. He's an attorney. I really recommend people checking out his work. But Brian Stevenson says, like, yeah, you're going to make a mistake in life. You might even kill somebody, right? And Are you redeemable? Yes, you are. Because you might have killed somebody because you were in the drug game, you were trying to feed your family, you didn't have a good educational experience, you saw selling drugs as your only option. But what happens is nobody wants to talk about it. I lost a classmate of mine, someone I graduated high school with. His beautiful 21-year-old daughter was shot and killed in the streets of Frederickstead. That broke me. It wasn't my daughter, but that broke me. And some of my students, they said, Miss Carter, that was a nice girl. It was the girl she was liming with. It was the people she had known. And I believe that students know. Some young people know her murderer. Why don't they want to give that person up? Because they think it's going to be a retaliation.
Yep.
So there's so many issues of how we deal with our trauma. We got to start a lot younger. We can't wait till the teenage years.
Yep.
I mean, are you sitting down reading to your child? Do you play a game? Or is everybody on their individual devices? There's no community, there's no communication. Um, Sometimes I'll walk around the school, I'll have on a sign or I'll have a poster, and I'll just walk around at lunchtime. Probably need to do some correcting, probably need to turn in grades or do some lesson planning, but I'll literally just have a conversation with them. And they see me as the crazy lady at Complex, but I can see the joy and the value in someone asking them a question. Why do you think so many girls don't want to wear their natural hair? Was one of my questions. Today's question, I did it today. Would you rather have less work or more work that you enjoyed? Right? And just that simple act. Or sometimes I'll stand by the entrance when they're coming in. You are loved. You are loved. And they'll be like, this chick crazy no ras. But the custodian was watching me one time, or the maintenance guy. He said, Miss Carter, you bring a joy to about 50 of them when they walk past and you tell them about you are loved. You are I didn't say I love them, but I gave them that boost in their day. We got to start doing these things for one another.
Yeah.
Somebody loved them somewhere. Okay, got you. That's true. That's true.
They could love themselves.
Or love yourself. People don't
True.
love themselves. We're socially engineered to think that we're lesser.
Mm. Two things, and then I'm a wrap this up because I don't want to keep you ladies on too late. All right. So the first one we were talking about backstage, right? Um, Most of us know that. Well, I can't even say most of us because I don't know anymore because the teaching, the education has changed. But we, as far as Black people, Africans, people of African descent, right? We're separated by a boat stop, most of us. And we were talking about the separation of the diaspora and, even like what are we and why is it important for us to think more as one people as opposed to a group of different peoples from different tribes and different cultures? Why is that important?
Because we have similarity. Even if we are from different tribes and different cultures, we have similarities. We have needs. We're all human. We're all people that need food. We need shelter. We need clothes. We have children. Like, look at the intersectionality of all of these things with humans. And we could sit here and talk about our differences, or we could talk about what's similar. So I'm not telling anybody they can't belong to the tribe they want to. I'm not saying you can't belong to whatever group you want to, or be a Virgin Islander that moves away, or be a state setter that moves here. But there's with reason, because you're now going to another place. And if you're from here, you should always reciprocity. You should always give back, right? So you have a responsibility to return something to the place that birthed you. I think that's a cycle of life. And you don't have to live here to do it. I also think that if you go someplace else, you have to contribute. So being different isn't the issue because we're all different. It's what, in what ways are we similar? In what ways are we all facing the same thing, the same systems, the same oppressions? You know, all of our children go to schools or this and that. Well, mine homeschooled, but that's still a community of people that do that. That's still a group of people with similar interests. So separating us into household, 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 that's not even how human beings exist. That's not how they grow. I need other humans. I have to prosper by unifying with other human beings. I have to trade with other tribes. I have to, function on a global level. So, globally, what are we? We are people of color. And anybody on the globe can literally fit into the group of people of color. So, once you identify yourself and understand that all human beings are people of color, and that then we could start hashing away at the differences and look at those differences as ways we could help each other and not ways that we build barriers and walls.
Mm,
For me, I gotta just the immortal words of Sizzla Kalanji.
uh-huh.
Will never give away a continent for an island.
Yep.
All
Mm,
right. I am an African woman, right? The world is now so small. I literally have made friends in West Africa just online,
Yep.
right? And I'm dying to get over to Cape Coast, Ghana. I'm dying to head over to Senegal. I want to go back to South Africa. I want to go back to Cameroon, where I lived as an eighth grader from Arthur Richards. I lived there as an eighth grader from Arthur Richards. My aunt took me to Cameroon, West Africa. So if the world is small now,
Yep.
this technology product has really decreased the global distance. So we don't really have time. I think there's really literally the oppressed and the oppressor, because there are white people catching hell in America too, poor
Yep.
whites, but they're told not to join up with poor blacks because they want to get that little edge where they're somehow better because of their white skin, right? That's ridiculous.
Yep.
We have to fight people who are not sharing. There are people who are not sharing. There is a small conglomerate of people that are holding more resources that need to be shared with so many of us.
Yep. And there is
thank
enough
you.
resources.
There is. And we
Plenty.
need to keep in mind that majority of the earth is not land. 70% of earth is actually water. So yes, it is smaller than we think. Now, I do want to touch on this one because I know that Lindsay, aka She Dread, she has a bit of a reputation in these spaces as well. Um, so there are spaces online and on land in the Virgin Islands where it's being occupied by non-Virgin Islanders. I'll say that, right? I do my best to actually stay out of these spaces because I don't feel comfortable in there. Places like where it is what's going on St. Croix, I don't even feel comfortable in places like that there because it just comes off. Y'all might not be able to talk about it, but I'll talk about it. It feels like it's been colonized, right?
It
And we
is.
are not even welcome in there because you go
It's
in
not
there
a
and it's nothing
feeling,
but
Dread. It's a
You would be
reality.
you would be surprised how many of our own people are right there on there in their little elitist mode, selling
but
us out.
it just
It's
comes
I
off
mean,
like it's colonizers just asking for advice of how can I best take over this place.
well,
And
with the
we're like, some of
connectivity
us
that
are like,
Saida was Well,
There you go.
exactly. And think about the connectivity. What Saida just said, she can meet anybody online. So colonizers use that to their benefit too, right? I mean, co- colonization is an American identity. Who gets offended with that, that's fine. That is the identity and the cultural
Hmm.
base of America. Okay, if I tell somebody,
Hmm.
so what you're doing affects me like this, they'll be like, well, is it legal? Morality isn't the issue in America. It's what you could get
It's
away with and
legality.
what's
Okay.
legal,
Correct.
right? So they don't care. There's no button in their head or switch that says, I'm doing this to another person, another group
Hey,
of
hey,
people.
guys, they weren't smart enough to use their resources.
Exactly.
Okay. They are letting the land just lay fallow. There are
Hmm.
plenty of buildings that just need a little love and care and renovation. I'm going to go buy 700 of those buildings.
Yeah. And wait, there's a local Virgin Islander that's going, I glad because I tired of seeing all them derelict buildings. So let them come in. You know how much people locally have told me they're fine with gentrification because they wealthy enough to survive it?
The thing about it though, I don't think people realize that it's science. Science says only one person, being, or entity can occupy the same space at one time. So if they take it over, if someone takes over this amount of land, you cannot also take over that space. You get what I'm
Oh,
saying? Like it's physically impossible. And then there's this, I don't want to get too deep because we closing up. But there's this like once they do that and they're not really invested in your land, they're not gonna live there for real. So when the hurricanes and the disasters hit, they're going to leave and you will be left with the rubble, literally. And
yep,
then even if they do stay, tourism isn't stable, and then it forms a slave worker class, which
yep,
locals will have to do because that's all they're doing. They're having Airbnbs, they're building hotels, and all this other stuff that it needs workers. Who else is going to be the worker other than people that live there?
right.
Because they're not helping your infrastructure. They're not
But there's,
putting internet and broadband and but
that's not for us. It's not
And,
for us. You're absolutely right. Our
and
leaders have not done things for us. They do things for the growth of our economy in their eyes. And that's the thing is like people say we are the government, we vote them in. Not in a colony. We are a colony. Our government has no accountability to us. They do not answer to us. They answer to Massa. They don't answer to us. And this is a big confusion with people because if I've oppressed you and limited you and locked you in a closet for so long, and I let you out and I'm like, yo, I'll let you go vote, then you really think that voting has like power. Like you think I gave you something, you know? And there's no checks and balances in the government. And people are like, oh, well, you could not vote for them next time. So I have to let them rate me for like 2 to 4 years? Like, that's your plan? That's your plan? You know?
Marcus
So,
asked. I think we've answered this. Marcus asked, so if the land isn't being used and the locals aren't, I guess, buying it, what's the answer to leave it there? No, locals need to buy the land.
but what does being used mean? When that man down west come and clean all those acres and put cane on it. That was his argument. It's not being used. He removed ecosystems, he removed habitats. People ate the crab off that land. What you see as not used land is a habitat, and things live
Mm,
on that. This, like, if you're talking about a derelict building in the middle of town, that's different. But land is a
yeah,
resource. They could sit there
yeah.
till I ready for it. It's not gonna go bad. It's fine. Let it sit there
I
until
vex I
we, the
saved this
people
till the
living
end.
here,
I
could
vex I
use
saved
it.
this till the end. At the beginning
Montreal,
and at the end of the day, it's our people running this place. That's incorrect. That is incorrect, and I wholeheartedly disagree. Even the bosses have a boss and they don't live there.
and
But
follow
Correct.
the
go ahead.
money. You got to follow the
Follow the
money in
money.
the Virgin Islands. You got to follow the money, Dread. And if local people, if the money not there, if they got probate issues, Why wouldn't a government say, hey, we're going to support the ownership for young local
Hmm.
people to do these things? We're going to make agendas. We're going to create programs that support people. No, they're like, we want to sell this place to the highest bidder because we know that the highest bidder is going to drop a little change in our pocket. And if we're
Correct.
elitists, if we're self-aggrandizing and we're elitists and we don't have a Black consciousness, right? And all we want to do is wine and dine and 69, then what's going to happen? We're not going to be working for our people that are like us, Virgin Islanders like us. We're going to work for who can cake us out
Yep.
so that when we leave government service or we leave whatever, we're now sitting pretty. I like nice things too, Ja, but I can't sell
Yep.
out my people for nice
I feel you.
things.
Yep.
Bessie,
And
is this
what's
true?
a
Is
Virgin
this true?
Islander? What we have yet to define what is a native Virgin Islander, an ancestral Virgin Islander, or a local.
Hmm.
What you if you want to define those terms to use them, then we have to do that.
I'm actually a first generation Virgin Islander. Both of my parents are from St. Kitts. What we need to recognize is that the Virgin Islands is a melting pot for a reason. It's a melting pot
Correct.
because it's literally a pass through for people from other islands to get to the United States and to get citizenship. That's
Correct.
why we're such a melting pot. But Bessie says no one is stopping the locals from buying the land. Is that true?
Locals, yes, that is true. Number one. You go to a realtor down here, you better have a white friend. Because if I go buy land right now, you best believe I'm going to find me a white friend and send them to the realtor. Because many locals of brown skin color complain they are not shown the same listings. So that is an issue. Yes. Number two, people in the States make more money than we make here. Saida, you took a what cut to come here? You make more money in the States and then you could come here and outbid us. The same site that you're talking about has stateside going, I just want to move to St. Croix. Oh my God, it's so lovely. I will pay $2,500 a month for a one-bedroom studio. Who's going to pay that here? I
And
know
they
people
sharpen
making
pencils for a
$11
living.
an hour.
And they sharpen pencils for a living, but they have enough
Yeah,
money to come down here and buy it. Oh,
because,
I can
yeah,
do that as a waitress somehow, some way. They're gonna come get a bartending job, and now they can do it. But the person
yep,
I know that lived there forever, who's working two jobs and got side hustle, for some reason can't afford it.
right.
That's
Because
not
they
a
won't pay us.
that's not a
And this
mistake.
is an American statistic. This is
And
not
it's
like
not,
this isn't made up. This isn't us complaining, Bessie Gonzalez. These are facts. These are statistical facts. You
and
know?
also too, there's nothing magical about white people too. But you have to understand that they have been propped up. There's something
Yeah.
called systemic racism. There's something called white supremacy. There's something called
Privilege.
the triangular trade. Like, we are still not on a par, even though we built America, we built the West. Our
Right.
labor, our free labor built all of this. So why are we allowing it to happen? Our own people. Well, because every brother ain't a brother,
Well,
right?
every brother ain't a brother. We are trained to be crabs in a barrel. So, since we have been through colonialism and its stages, we have been turned against each other. If I look at the civil rights and I say, great, Clorox in this warehouse has to hire two black people and a handicapped person. Awesome. Look, we're moving up. No, that made the 10 black people that applied for that job, 8 of them won't get the job. That's what it did. But all the white people got their jobs. So you're not paying attention to our status within this colony. We have a status. We are property and we are owned. We are not even full citizenship. So what you think we can do with our government is not what we could do with our government. The reason the states can vote for their commissioner of police is because they have a constitution that says they can do it. If we make a constitution that's like agreeing that America had the right to buy us as cattle, it's a little trickier situation than just throwing one-liners out at literally the victims, Bessie, because we are the victims of colonialism, and you're questioning us on why we've allowed it to happen.
It's also, too, we have a learned inferiority, right? If
Correct.
you've been told for generations that you ain't it, right? And
You
that you're
believe that.
somehow lesser, then we begin to believe that. You know, when students say, you know, oh, Miss Carter, I don't read. Well, why don't you read?
Yep.
Hey, that's for some kind of little nerdy white girl. No, actually, it's also for you. Check this
Or
book out. Check that. Like, we have a learned built-in inferiority. So white supremacy, Black learned inferiority.
yep.
We've
And
learned that.
I'll give you an example of what we do, and we don't realize that we're doing it. We tell our children it will get better and you will get better when you go to the college in the States. Because what? There's magical white people up there? Why
And
is
not
it going
not
to
a
be better?
HBCU, not an
Yeah, thank
HBCU
you.
either.
No,
A
you know,
PWI. Look it up. I ain't saying what it is.
it's like this is the part of we're saying oppression and we're not realizing it, right? So that parent meant nothing bad by what they said or did, you know. They really thought they were like giving their child this pep talk so that they could go and be greater and not be stuck on this island. This island that when that child is 40, they're going to be like, why did I leave and sell that? Damn. So now everybody that wants to come home can't return. You know, there's a bunch of people that want to come home. They can't afford to come home. They can't afford to take that pay cut. They don't want to change their brakes every 6 months and realign their car every pothole. Like, they want to bring their children here, but you know what? Their children won't get the jobs as bartenders and this and that because we force tourism so much, and tourists like other white people serving them. It's a fact and a reality. So much of our wait staff right now is not locals when it used to be. When I grew up, Christian said was local people. I have no idea who anybody is in town anymore unless they work in a kitchen.
Man.
I don't know those people.
Oof.
I gotta go levels. That's about it. That's
Mm.
why you're gonna find locals.
You
One
spitting. Yeah.
spot? Really? And so our displacement rate is really high. Yes, we are adding to it, but we are adding to it because that's our trauma and our damage. After the whole Trayvon Martin situation, right? I had somebody come and tell us, don't let your sons wear hoodies. What? What? Why? You don't want them to end up like Trayvon Martin. And I thought to myself, so addressing the situation with fear and reacting the exact way that they want you to react, that's going to help the situation? How is that going to help the how? You know? And that's what we've been doing cyclically is, you know what? It's better if you just get off this island. And we tell our little 16 to 18-year-olds that you put down some of the biggest roots in life in your 20s. Most people have their first children in their 20s. Pay no attention to Miss Carter over there. Okay? But most people do. So you're sending your young away at their prime time when they're going to put down roots and be their adult for the first time. You're telling them in the VI, we don't have space for you. That's what we're telling our people actively. I did some surveys in Complex. I just hand them to Saida and let her pass them out. And one of the questions I try to ask a lot is, do you see yourself here in 5 years or 10 years? The majority of those students do not, and they do not see a place for them here. And they don't want no government job making scrappy money. Becoming old and bitter and hating here. Because they're watching their parents do, you know? So we are not creating those spaces for growth, but we're doing it because we're literally afraid they're going to be the next Trayvon Martin, because that's the little propaganda gain colonialism has done with us. So that's our response.
Whew. Ladies, I did y'all a disservice this evening. I should know better than to leave a question like that for last, right? But I really should. But you're here now and your family. I appreciate y'all coming through. I would love to continue that conversation if you're willing and able on another time. So if you ever want to come through, let me know. You know how to reach me. We'll do that. I know Lindsay, you were talking about another conversation with some other panelists
Yes.
about domestic violence or
Yes.
assault.
Assault.
Okay, we could definitely do that. Let's talk offline. Thank you so much for coming. Again, I apologize because I did not expect that, but I should have. Because now I'm amping up and it's supposed to be the end. So please, if you could give the people your socials, how they could contact you, where they could find the Act Out Ensemble, how they could come to the shows, and your final words. Whoever wants to go first.
So, in all finality, I just want to say I'm still hopeful. Or else, when I came home from work, I would cook my dinner, clean my house, listen to some music, go to sleep, right? I'm still hopeful. That's why I'm willing to do the work and I'm willing to partner with people such as Miss Simmons that are willing to do the work because I think we can still have a beautiful Virgin Islands. Um, Everything, we don't know everything. We're teaching ourselves, we're learning, we're in conversations with others, and we're trying to do it with a level of humility and a level of purpose. Right now, we have an Act Out Ensemble Facebook page, and we also have an Instagram. They've kind of been dormant a little bit. They're going to get kicked back up now as we start back in May. I teach at the St. Croix Educational Complex. I'm very excited to accept new Act Out Ensemble members. Um, it's a very small commitment because a lot of it is in a skit format. So we're not learning like a 60-page play or anything. But I'm hopeful. I love Black people. I love us so much, all of our complexities. And I just want to see us thrive, not survive. I just want to see us grow and flourish, not, just hold on. How you doing? "Oh, well, I holding on." No, I want us to be upful and joyful and start treating each other better, loving each other more, and just pushing the energy for a better life, not based on where you are financially, but just based on the need for people to have wonderful lives. Um, that's about it.
Good night, everybody. I appreciate you. I appreciate people that join in and participate. And I wouldn't be here if I wasn't hopeful. I tell people don't be surprised if I get up and leave one day because I have that right. But at the same time, I'm here because this is where I want to be. This is a choice. I'm not forced to be here or forced to do this. I believe in people and I believe in our healing capabilities and our ability to change if we choose it. So, you can find us, Saida. We do have a YouTube channel with a small amount of videos on it. Um, you can find us on Facebook. She's Saida, I'm She Dread, and Act Out Ensemble is on Facebook. And we would love for people to participate. And you do not have to stay participating. We took a mental break. You could take a mental break. Like, we would just love to have people in the conversation. We would love to have them start participating in the things that affect everyday lives of the people around them and get more comfortable with those conversations. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us on. We look forward to coming back on. It was fun. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you ladies for coming on. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation. this was a much needed conversation. Would love to continue it because it still kind of feels unfinished. But thank you. Thank you. I hope people are going to watch this. Share this if you're still on it. Share, share, share. People need to see these things and they need to be aware of what's going on home. Because if you didn't know about it, now you know. Let somebody else know. All right.
Yes.
Um, Other than that, Marcus, please stop posting that complex massive in my chat because it's Caribs for life, right? And you're sickening now. Um, Once again, thank you for coming through. We are one people. We are the diaspora. We are of African descent and Taino descent and all these Arawaks and all of that there. So love where you come from, but also remember that we are one. One love for real. All are we is one. All right. So that is Saida Carter. That is Lindsay Simmons, aka She Dread. And this is Ja. This was Seeing Difference. We love you. We out.